Now we can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Can I see you, Dick?
I don't think so.
I heard you, Sean.
John, can you
Dawn,
hear
if
us?
you can hear me, can you shake your head up and down?
It's
Jay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Ken? I can't hear anybody.
Can you hear me?
Can you hear Dick Martin?
I don't think so. He can't hear anybody, he said.
I heard you, Sean.
John, can you hear me? Hey, Dick, can I ask you a question?
Yes, I can,
Yep.
Sean.
When they're doing the measurements on the setback,
Okay.
things like that, do they measure from the, you know, how the roads actually have a certain width that's paved, but there's actually a width that is usually given to the town for work that they need to do?
Any dimensions they typically use should be from the lot line and not from pavement.
Okay, so, because I was
Because
just
it's
curious.
usually about 6 or 8 feet anyways of town-owned property.
Okay.
Either side of the pavement.
That was my question, because I just went and looked at the house today and there was like 9 feet to the porch. And I was
Yeah.
wondering how much is actually town versus.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No problem.
So we now are streaming live on YouTube.
Good.
never pick up dinner.
Feed the cats too.
What's the number? Mhm.
I think it's time to go back to regular meetings.
A lot of people are of the same mind.
Yes.
Let's see who we've got for attendees. There are a few here, but I don't see Steve, so hopefully he'll pop in pretty quickly here. Carter DeYoung, is that Steve? I'll promote him and see what happens.
Goodbye.
Bye, Jim. Happy retirement. Jim Brandolini is also retiring.
Oh.
Hello all.
There he is.
We're running a little late on the meeting, so we're gonna get going or
I'm good to go.
who else do we have?
Jay, Dick,
Hi
Sean.
Megan. Hi Jay.
Hi, Carter.
Hello.
And of course Dick. Good to
Yeah,
see you.
how you doing?
Good. There's Sean.
You just can't hear anybody. Or he can't,
Can you hear now, Sean?
nope.
He's connecting to audio, I can see. You ready for in-person meetings, Steve?
Yes.
We've got 1, 2, 3 voting members. We need, is this it?
I can vote now, so
Who can?
I
Jay?
can.
Jay can? Let's get
Yeah.
started. We're already late.
All right, do you want to do the roll call first, Steve?
Well, what you've got to do is go through you've got to do the script that's been
Okay.
presented.
I'll
Yeah.
start with this. The May 27, 2021 meeting of the Yarmouth Zoning Board of Appeals is about to convene. As a precautionary measure to reduce the spread of the coronavirus, this meeting will be held by remote participation. My name is Dawn Marie Flett and will be serving as moderator for this virtual meeting. I'll now turn it over to the Zoning Board of Appeals.
Thank you. And this evening we have 4 voting members. My name's Steve DeYoung, chair of this board. We have 4 voting members. I'll call the quorum. Sean Igo. Sean, can you take your mic off, please? There you go. Sean Igo.
Present.
Dick Martin.
Here.
Jay Fappery.
Here.
Steve DeYoung here. And we have Megan Homer, who's here, but she's not voting. Is that right, Megan, tonight?
Correct. This is my second meeting.
Okay, fine. Thank you. So we will get started if we can, please.
Pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 order superseding certain provisions of the open meeting law, this meeting of the Yarmouth Zoning Board of Appeals is being conducted by a remote participation. Although no in-person attendance will be permitted, every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access and participate in the proceedings. Persons who would like to view this meeting while in progress may do so by watching via this virtual meeting or the live feed on the Town of Yarmouth YouTube channel. You may also listen to the meeting by dialing the number provided on the notice of meeting. The recording of the meeting will also be available on the Town of Yarmouth YouTube channel for future viewing. Please be patient as we work to overcome any technological challenges with the virtual meeting. For all meetings, all audience participants will enter the meeting muted. Participants will be unmuted when called upon by the speaker or the chair or the moderator. All votes must be roll call votes. If you are not speaking, please mute yourself to avoid unnecessary background noise. Do not use speakerphone or Bluetooth devices when speaking. For applicants and presenters, applicants can use the raise hand button or press *9 on their phone to identify themselves to the chair. The moderator will unmute applicants when they are called upon to speak during their portion of the agenda. Applications or presentations provided by the applicant will be displayed on the virtual meeting by the moderator and advanced by the moderator. If pre-approval for larger projects, temporary panelist capabilities may be given to presenters to share their screens while giving their presentation. All presenters and speakers need to identify themselves first by name and affiliation when speaking for the record. For public hearings, during the portion of the hearing designated for public comment, the chair will ask who in the audience has any public comment or question. Members of the public may speak by selecting the raise hand button or pressing *9 on the phone and waiting for the chair to call on them to speak. Members of the public recognized by the chair are asked to identify themselves by first and last name and affiliation for the public record and then to provide their comment. Prior to concluding opportunities for public comment, the chair will ask one last time if anyone wishes to speak or give an additional comment. I'll now hand the meeting back to the board.
Well, thank you very much. Wonderful job of this first time of yours this evening. May you help us for a long time to come. So we have a continued hearing. That is 48908 Grove Street, West Yarmouth, Mass. That is a Michael Lindsay and Sandra Lindsay, trustees of 8 Grove Street Realty Trust. This matter was before us a while ago. Jay, did you sit in on that meeting?
I did not, but I watched the video and up to speed on it.
All right, well, we're going to need to, Dawn Marie, if we could email over to Jay at a later time, his certification that he watched the meeting that we need because we only have 4 voting members this evening. So with that, if we can ask the petitioner or its representative to join us, please.
And is that Paul Tardif?
It is.
I'm promoting him to panelist. Paul, you
Thank
should be.
Mr. Chairman, how are you?
Fine, sir. How are you?
Thank you. And I'm glad we covered with Mr. Frappy that he's watched this and he's up to speed. Just for the record, my name is Paul Tardif. I'm an attorney in Yarmouthport. I do represent the petitioners, Michael and Sandra Lindsay, the owners of the property at 8 Grove Street in their trust, the 8 Grove Street Realty Trust. They are joining us by phone. or I think on the Zoom call actually, and Kieran Healy from the BSC group is here as well. At the last hearing, I don't want to revisit everything, Mr. Chairman, but at the last hearing, some members of the board expressed concerns about a few things about the project. One was the front setback, going from its present 6 inches to what we had proposed to be a 2.2 feet. Concerns were also voiced about the existence of a set of double stairs on the front of the house, and also the proposed height of the structure and the possibility that it could be moved back off of the street further into or closer to wetlands. And since that hearing, we have worked on revising the plans, which we now have. Let me just summarize those changes for you. First of all, the height. By changing the roof pitch a bit, we were able to bring that height down to 33 feet 11 inches from average grade. The existing structure, just for your information, is 28.5 feet from the average grade. So we're talking about an increase total of 4.5 feet. And that actually, we shaved off about 7 or 8 inches off the roof of that house. The front setback, as I indicated, we are currently at 6 inches from Grove Street with a porch there. The last time we were before you, we had a double set of stairs that were going to sit 2.2 feet from the street. As a result of some of the requests to remove those, we did that. So the current proposal is for the building to be set back 8.7 feet from the street. So from 6 inches, we're going back 8.7 feet. We also did consult with the Conservation Administrator, Kelly Grant, about moving the location of the proposed house any further toward the wetlands. And I know you have a memorandum in your file dated May 20th, basically indicating that the house would not be permitted to be moved any closer to the wetlands. And also, just to point out, I'm not sure if I put it out last time, but on the plans that you have now, you see the green space there. Those are all the additional plantings that we're going to be doing to mitigate the extra hardscape in the riverfront area. That totals about 3,000 square feet of plantings. The building coverage. The existing building coverage is at 11.9%. The last time we were here, our proposal had a 12.3%, and currently the proposal you have in front of you now is down to 11.7%. We're actually a little lower than the existing. We did shrink the house a little bit from 40 feet deep to 39 feet deep. We did move the entrance to the side, so there'll be no front door on Grove Street. I do want to reiterate that the property will be used for single-family residential purposes only, not going to be used for commercial events or for profit. The owners or the occupants of the property shall not park or store commercial vehicles on the property, except during construction, of course, or as an invited guest. Now, we are asking this board to issue a special permit pursuant to 104.3.2, subparagraph 2. Which says that we can raise and replace structures if it's determined that the raise and replace will not be substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood than is the existing non-conforming structure. I want to address that section a little bit more specifically than I usually do, because we ran into a few questions last time, and I just want to make sure we are all on the same page here. First, you need to take a look at what you have there currently in order to make a determination about the issuance of a special permit to determine if what we're proposing is better or worse. So the existing house, you have a house that sits 6 inches from the road layout. The house is not flood compliant, which means that in the event of a flood or water or a storm, this house could be lifted from its foundation, and in reality, pieces of this house will be thrashed around the neighborhood, damaging other properties. It's not something that the town really wants. The height of this house, again, as I indicated, is 28.5 feet currently. There is a detached garage, and a portion of that is within the A11 flood zone, and a portion is within the 50-foot buffer to the salt marsh. The parking is currently limited to the northerly portion of the property or cars are parked on the street. What we are proposing, again, is to move this thing back 8.7 feet from the road layout. But that's a vast improvement to the only setback encroachment of the property. And by the way, the house is located at the dead end of Grove Street, which is a quiet side street with most of the vehicle traffic generated pretty much by the 3 houses south of Park Street that have driveways on that road. This house is going to be flood compliant, which is going to be safer for the neighborhood. The height of the house will increase by 4.5 feet, but will be located further back from the street. The garage will be removed entirely. Parking will be added to the southerly side of the property with a new driveway and garage bays below. The Title V septic system will be utilized. You have the elevations, which are attractive, and they are absolutely fitting in this neighborhood. Several houses in the area have come before you in similar styles and details, and which were approved. The most recent relief was provided to the property at 15 Park Ave, and the same aesthetics of that property are involved here. The entire plan was approved by the Conservation Commission, who, I don't have to remind you, but it's their job to promote and protect the town's natural resources and the watersheds. And by the way, despite our efforts to push the house back, we could not get approval to do that. So how is this project, how is the proposed project substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood than what is there now? It's the applicant's position there is no detriment whatsoever with this project. The neighbor who was the most affected by the increase in height has already expressed support for the project via their attorney, Brian Wall. The existing home is approximately 8 feet deeper than the proposed, so we're getting rid of that entire section of that house. The property is pretty attractive, and it fits with the style of many of the larger homes in this part of Hyannis Park. And although I understand the resistance to change, there must be an understanding of the need for the replacement of homes like this one built 94 years ago. Age and living near the ocean are factors for these houses. Replacement of these homes started years ago in this neighborhood, and this is just a progression. What's also interesting is if this proposal was submitted as part of a variance application, which it's not, I think it would meet the criteria for the zoning bylaw section 102.2.2. Petitioner would still suffer a hardship if they couldn't replace a decaying home. The inability to reconstruct, if based on its location in the front setback, is due to the lot's soil conditions, having multiple salt marshes, wetlands, and its proximity to a riverbank. And finally, desirable relief could be granted without substantial detriment to the public good. This is pretty much what our bylaw allows. It does not require, our bylaw, in a case such as this, full compliance. Otherwise, there would be no need for the zoning board of appeals. It'd either be comply or go home. So you must agree that this house and its design fit on this lot. That is an oceanfront lot like this, and that it's one of the only plans that makes sense for this lot. I'm going to leave it there, Mr. Chairman, because I know a lot of information was already submitted. I don't want to reiterate that, but I just wanted to go through that a little bit with you slower. We, in my opinion, meet the criteria for a special permit in this case.
Thank you for your presentation and its brevity. There may be some questions from board members. Jay, do you have any questions of our petitioner's representative?
No, I had a chance to go walk the property and look through all the material as well, watch it, and I don't have any further questions.
No, I'm not picking on anybody. I want everybody to know I'm just going the way I see you on my screen. So the next is Mr. Igo. Mr. Igo, do you have any questions about petitioner?
I do. Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening.
Could you tell me what the proposed square footage of this house is? Because I don't see it marked anywhere on the plan. Am I missing that?
Tell me, you want the square footage of the footprint, or you want the living
I
space?
want the square footage of the whole house as proposed.
Well, it is on the plan. If you look at the floor plans, you'll see, at least in the living spaces, and I'm not going to give you the garage because there's no living there, but I think we're at about 30.
Or from the first floor up.
Yep, 3,600 square feet.
3,600, that's your representation?
Well, it's
Is
on the
that
plan.
accurate? Is that accurate? Where is that on the plan?
If you look at the floor plans
Yeah,
and where you see main level floor plan, right underneath the word main, you'll see some square footage.
yeah.
And then upper level floor plan, you'll see under the word upper, you'll see it again there.
It shows the actual plan, or am I multiplying 40 by 39? Oh, you're
No,
getting,
Yeah, no, it's, let me just tell you, I'll pick up the plan and tell you. The main floor has 1,501 square feet. The upper level floor plan has 1,524 square feet. And the loft plan shows 600 and, I think it's 53 square feet.
okay, so you're 3,677. And I'm looking at the property card that shows 2,059.
That's about right, that's correct.
Okay. All right. I have a question about the garage space, your proposed garage space.
Yes,
By law, it says 3 vehicles or storage for more than 3 vehicles. Are you asking for relief for that?
we don't. The garage, if you look at that lower level plan, the
Mhm.
the garage from that driveway that we're gonna propose will only allow, is a 2-car garage. The other bay is basically for storage of, because you can't even get to it. You can't even drive to that third bay because of where it's located in proximity to the pool. So I believe it's gonna be storage for, what you normally put in a garage.
Well, a normal garage is about 22 feet deep. How deep is this garage? It looks like store a few cars in there.
Well, it's a 2-car garage, and I believe, I don't know if Mr. Healy is on, but it's about 22 feet, 23 feet deep on the garage
It looks
spaces.
to me like you could store at least 6 cars in there.
No,
Okay. Those are full-size garage doors, correct?
they are. Actually, I think they're 7 feet, I believe. We have to get them up, we have to get the house up over them.
Well, I've got a little concern with that. I think you should be asking for relief for that. Now,
Under what section was that?
well, it's under that footnote on 202, footnote 5. Says for garage space or for storage of more than 3 vehicles, and I think you're gonna store more than 3 vehicles in there.
I don't think it can handle more than 3 vehicles.
Okay. Your plan shows 4 bedrooms, but you got 2 4s. So you got a bedroom in the loft and you got 4 other bedrooms. So are we in agreement that there's 5 bedrooms now?
That's correct. They were in the last plan too.
Okay, yeah, I just saw it. It was mismarked. There was 2
Yeah.
4. Yeah,
Yeah,
okay,
you're right. It's bedroom 3 is there twice, right?
okay. And is there a roof deck proposed for this house?
No,
Okay. Are there any decks up on that loft area?
yes, they're noted on the plan. But that roof deck is actually, I believe that's on the street side. No, I'm sorry, that's on the back side. So the street will be on the left hand of each depiction.
Okay, okay. I'm not seeing that loft. It's a little, yeah, I'm trying to negotiate this. I understand it. I mean, obviously it's easier when we're together, but I'm trying to negotiate this thing online here.
Okay, there is a roof deck off of the bedroom up there.
So this front setback is at 8 feet
7,
8-7.
yes.
All right, so would you agree that your footprint, now I've got on the property card, the footprint is at 1305 and you're going to 1582 just on the footprint. Are we in agreement with that?
Hold on. 1582 is what is exactly on the plan.
You have
That's
on your,
correct.
and yeah, okay, all right.
Yeah.
That's all I have for, and you said the height of the building is 3311 from average grade?
Yes,
Where did you take the average grade from?
from the corners of the house, just like the building department requires.
Okay, all right, they're in agreement with that?
They are.
Okay. That's all I have right now. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'm just wondering, looking at you, Mr. Igo, are you in Florida or are you here?
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, no, I can't discuss, I can't divulge
And
that.
disclose your location? Fair enough. Mr. Martin?
I was in Florida this morning.
Here, Mr. Chairman.
I should have looked up Sean because I was there this morning. I don't really have any questions. I think everything's pretty much self-explanatory, or the questions I might have had were brought up by Sean. So is there any partition underneath or whatever that might preclude that so-called basement area holding more cars?
No, just the depiction on the plan is what we have right now. If we need to put additional walls, I mean, I guess we could look into that, and if that's what you wanted, but I can tell you that it's not typical to stack those cars inside a garage anyway. And they have a driveway outside, and we have 3 parking spaces to the north of the house that are on the plan, which should be more than enough.
They can stack boats instead. I don't have anything.
I don't want to talk about boats.
I don't have anything else.
Okay.
You know, you just hit on what my question, oh, I'm sorry, Meg, do you have any questions of the
I
petition?
don't. I do not have any question.
You know, you just hit on something that was my only question. I'm looking at 3 parking spaces on what appears to be distribution tanks. Am I right on that? Septic distribution tanks?
I believe so, yes.
Has the Board of Health been consulted at all on this?
I believe they have. Mr. Chairman, I'm not sure if Mr. Healy is at least in the queue somewhere. He's called me twice during the meeting. I'm not sure if he's able to get on, or if he can't get, I don't know what you call it, elevated or whatever you call it, to get him on this call.
Well, we thank you for calling it elevated. We do feel like we're high on the days. Perhaps our moderator could invite Mr. Healy, who's always a pleasant character to have join us. And this is Kieran Healy, for those in the audience. He is with the BSC group in Yarmouth and a frequent flyer before our board. Good day, Mr. Healy.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. For the record, I'm Kieran Healy, a land surveyor with the BSC group, working with Mr. Lindsay and Mr. Tariff on this project. A few things to note. One is that the existing septic system, as you had mentioned, the parking is over the top of it. The same parking area existed at the time the septic system was put in place. So it was designed for what we call H20 loading, which means it's heavy duty, and it's perfectly okay to park on top of it. So that was, it was as well, it was installed when the septic system went in. The second item is that if you look at the floor plan of the lower level, you will see some walls that are in there. So there is not enough depth to park multiple vehicles stacked inside the building. So the floor plan of the lower level does show a wall that would stop or leave Sean's fears on stacking of vehicles in that area. So if that plan was to be able to be brought up if needed, that should identify that you just can't stack vehicles in that primary garage as the fear was.
Well, with all due respect, it looks like you could park a semi-trailer in the one that's not a parking spot according to the representation. So
Yeah,
I don't
it is definitely longer than the other ones, no question, but there is no driveway access to it. That is used for primarily pool equipment, lawn chairs, any type of winter storage of furniture in that area, tables and so on.
Well, assuming that there's going to be, if there is a vote on this tonight and the relief is granted, I'm going to assume that somebody's going to suggest a condition about who and what can park underneath that building. So does anyone in our audience care to have any input into this in favor of the petition? If so, please raise your hand and let us know you're here. Madam Moderator?
There are many attendees. Michael Lindsay would like to speak.
Feel free, Mr. Lindsay. You got to take your microphone and turn it on.
Thank you. I was just hooking up to the meeting, so I didn't mean to do that. I just wanted to make sure that
Okay, we'll shut you off then. Shut your mic off and we'll go to the next person that might want to speak in favor of this petition. Please raise your hand. Ms. Moderator?
Again, there are many attendees and no other hands raised at the moment.
All right. Would anybody like to speak in opposition to this plan? If so, please raise your hand and let us know who you are.
And David Reed.
All right, let's invite Mr. Reed in, please. Always good to see Mr. Reed.
Go ahead, Mr. Reed.
I'm here, I'm looking at you, but I'm not seeing myself. Is my video on as well, or
It's not.
You want, I can promote him to panelist?
Sure.
whatever you,
Want to see him? Now your mic is off.
there we go.
There you are. Hi, Mr. Reed.
Good evening.
Attorney Reed, I should say.
I'm asked to speak tonight on behalf of 7 of the neighboring households. Coolin and Helen Shaw of 2 Highland Street, Chris Latazzi and Daniel Rosenthal of 22 Park Avenue, Donald and Patricia Quinlan of 11 Grove Street, Martha Leary of 11 Park Avenue, Anik Cooper and Douglas Peabody of 16 Highland Street, Sheila Lutazzi of 18 Park Avenue, and Marilyn Otis Boss of 25 Highland Street. They are all abutters or very close neighbors and are all single-family residential properties. Most of them spoke to you at the previous hearing. Almost all of them are also year-round residents in this neighborhood. They've asked me to speak tonight, not to repeat what they said last time. Most of them, I presume, are online tonight, and if you have questions, can answer them. But they all remain in opposition to this proposal, even with the revised plans that have been presented to you tonight. I had a chance to watch your video from March 25th, the first hearing on this matter, and I took a couple of notes. I heard these phrases several times. Quote, very big house. Quote, very tall house. Quote, towering over Grove Street. Quote, awfully large house. And quote, overbearing 3rd floor. What caught my attention on those remarks is that those were made by the board members, not by the audience. The board had concerns about the magnitude of this house at this location in its proximity to the street, right from the start. You did, Mr. Chairman in particular, express to the applicant that when you have a special permit request for a replacement of a house, not for a modification, but for a tear down and replacement, that it is the board's goal to reduce nonconformities, not increase them, to address past issues, either of pre-existing conditions or other discrepancies from current zoning, and to actually exercise a rare opportunity to undo nonconformities. The major nonconformity in this case is obviously the setback from Grove Street. That setback is, as you've mentioned, 30 feet. And indeed, the 30-foot setback requirement has existed since 1946, when zoning was first adopted in Yarmouth. And I would venture to say, having some experience in Yarmouth zoning, that the front yard setback is a very coveted and protected interest, perhaps the more protected than many other interests in zoning, in order to avoid overcrowding and congestion. Height limitations, setbacks, building lot sizes, they've all changed over the years. But for 75 years of zoning in Yarmouth, the 30-foot front yard setback requirement has been a constant. Here we have a house that preceded zoning. I didn't comply with that. I'm not sure about the porches. I don't know when they were built. I have presented to you through your moderator a 1962 land court plan of this property. I don't know if that's been shared with you or if it should be shared now on the screen.
Well, I'm lucky enough to have it, but I don't know if anybody else does. If it could be shown on the screen, that'd be great.
Would you like me to share a copy of it, or?
Yes, please.
We'll see if I can do that. We have the house here, and I can go back up to show the date. This is a 1962 land court plan showing the lot 5, which is the existing property, and the house. And at that time, at least, there are not displayed any porches on the north, east, or south side of the house. I don't know for certain that they existed, that they did not exist at that time. And it probably doesn't matter. But it's possible that they were built at a later date and really ought not to be there. But they do count. Mr. Healy and Mr. Tardif are right. Whether you count them as the same thing as foundation or just as coverage or as footprint, they're there, they count. And the removal of the Grove Street side porch is relevant and is important and is appreciated. But frankly, we're far more concerned with the structure of the house itself rather than a rather benign porch. If I can again share a photograph that we also submitted, that's the northerly view of the northern facade of the house. As you can see, the porches are rather open, at grade, not particularly structural at all, and nowhere near as important in terms of the change of this location than the house itself. Indeed, I think several of your members focused on that fact at the earlier hearing, pressing for details that they weren't able to glean from the plans for the actual separation between the road layout and the facade, the front wall of the house, which Mr. Healy provided that information late in the hearing at 8 feet, 2 inches, I believe. You've now heard from Mr. Tardif the changes that they've made in the plans since March. And they've reduced several elements. I would say modestly, they probably would disagree. But I ask you to keep in mind that those are not reductions in real nonconformities. The previous plans don't exist on the ground. Those are changes in what they're asking for, not changes or improvements over what exists. And frankly, it's my contention that the existing house, as compared to the proposed house on even these new plans, is actually substantially more non-conforming than presently exists. We lastly uploaded to you, made available, some graphics, which I will concede are not to an engineering standard and are not professionally done. They are simply an attempt to visualize the architectural elevations as compared to the existing facade of the house. This is the view from Grove Street and the east elevation of the house. the existing house is 8 feet, 2 inches, I believe, back from the street, not counting the porch. The proposed house will be slightly further back than that. But the existing house, that is the main body of the house, is only about 29 feet wide. The proposed house is almost 40 feet wide. And so the now area of house that is encroaching into this 30-foot setback is being increased by almost 40%, mostly by filling in what are currently at-grade, uncovered porches with full height, 3-story structures. There's a lot more house that will be in that same space, that same non-conforming space, than is there now. The non-conforming area that is currently 29 feet wide and about 20 feet deep into the setback will now be almost 40 feet wide, and again, the same 20 or 22 feet deep in terms of the amount of the house. A full 2/3 of that house is located within the 30-foot setback. This is not a minor encroachment. And I contend that there being more house, more physical structure, wider, taller, increasing its floor space by almost double, means it's more non-conforming in that area, in that 30 feet. And if a non-conformity is a bad thing for the neighborhood, then more of that non-conformity is worse for the neighborhood. And we would contend is substantially more detrimental, notwithstanding the removal of the single-story, fairly open porch on that side. As you've noted in your discussions, the footprint of the house itself is increasing by quite a bit. Not the total coverage of the lot, but the footprint of the house itself. What are now open porches are becoming full interior 3-story spaces of the house. The floor area of the house is increasing by over 80% by my quick math. I didn't have all the numbers that Mr. Tardif read off until he was giving his presentation this evening. We didn't see them on the plans. But that's going to result in a significantly more useful and undoubtedly more used house. Not only by one additional bedroom and a few more people, but it simply is going to be far more useful and far more used and far more occupied than it is now and has been in the past. I'm sure that's their intention and their goal, and I don't think they can deny that, and that's wonderful in the abstract. But this neighborhood already has a problem with traffic. As you know, Park Avenue, is the only throughway other than Route 28 to go from Hyannis to Yarmouth in this area, other than going out to Route 28. They have a lot of traffic that uses Park Avenue, and increase a house like this of this magnitude will increase the traffic in and around that area. You heard a lot at the last hearing about neighborhood character, about the character of this neighborhood and the type of homes that are here. That's not usually a determinative factor for you, but it is a consideration. And the applicant has made their case to you that this is an appropriately designed and to be constructed house to fit in the neighborhood. The neighbors respectfully disagree. It is absolutely true, as Mr. Tardif and Mr. Healy pointed out to you last night and again tonight, that the east end of Park Avenue, Glenwood Street, Algonquin, Harbor Road, that area, has vastly changed in recent years. There are very few of the old style homes left in that area, very few of the smaller homes. But that's not this area. This part of Hyannis Park remains predominantly occupied by the old beach houses, the 1- and 2-story homes, not modern 3-story homes like this. In fact, Mrs. Cooper did some calculations from the assessor's records and determined that in excess of 90% of the homes in true Hyannis Park are still 2 stories or less, many of them 1, but not 2.5 and not 3 stories. 2 stories or less, at least 90% of them. There are some bigger houses, undoubtedly, nearby, but they are not what prevails in the area, and they are not what necessarily defines the area. Now, we fully, painfully understand that you are not a design review committee. You're not the arbiters of architectural style or taste. That's not your purview. We're not asking you to do that. But to the extent that the applicant makes the case that this is an appropriate house to fit in this neighborhood, we wish to make the similar argument that it is not. And I can tell you that of the 7 households whom I represent, 7 of the people who are required to be notified of this hearing because they have a stake in the outcome do not agree that this is an appropriate style, size, or located house for this location in this neighborhood. The fact that conservation wishes it to be as far away as possible from the wetlands is important from conservation's point of view. But their purview is to protect the wetlands, not the neighborhood. It is your goal to protect the neighborhood from increases such as this, not to protect the wetlands. And those don't always go hand in hand. Sometimes what conservation wants to push in one direction, you need to push in the other. And it's the applicant's job, not yours, to find some middle ground. As Mr. Tardif observed, and I believe the chair at the last meeting, this house now proposed at 33.9 feet in height is less than the 35 feet that the bylaw would allow. But that doesn't mean that it's an allowed height at this location. Located within the 30-foot setback, it's not a conforming house, even if it's under the 35 feet. It still requires a special permit. It still requires your determination that to increase this property from the modest house that is there now to what is proposed would not be substantially more detrimental. We believe that it would be. And so, making full circle to where I started, when this, quote, very big house, when this, quote, towering design, and when this, quote, overbearing 3rd floor are all located within the 30-foot front yard setback, where 40 feet of width and 22 feet of depth of this proposed house will be non-conforming to where they're supposed to be, will be located where no building is supposed to be, where a full 2/3 of the house is located in the front yard setback. We believe that you do have something to say about it, and we ask you to say no. This is simply too much for this location. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. There may be questions of you, Mr. Reed, so if you'd stick with us. Mr. Martin, any questions of Mr. Attorney Reed?
No questions at this time.
Mr. Igo, any questions of Mr. Reed?
No questions, thank you.
Okay, and then Ms. Homer, any questions of Mr. Reed?
No questions. Thank you.
Mr. Frappria, any questions of Mr. Reed? Your mic is off, Jay. Thank you.
No question.
All right, I have not a question, but a comment. I think it's been pretty well established that you and I may disagree on whether or not going up is an additional nonconformity. I've never considered additional nonconformity. I've always considered what's on the ground. So on that score, I don't know that I agree with you. Clearly, I do agree that we have consistently sought to reduce nonconformity of at least what's touching the soil in each and every case of these raise and replace special permit requests. So let's see. We're now going to, you're welcome to stay on just as you are, Mr. Reed, because you may have other things you want to say going along. But Ms. Moderator, do we have anybody else that cares to speak in opposition to this petition? If so, would you let us know?
I do not see any hands raised. Oh, Chris Lutazzi.
All right, why don't we ask him to please identify himself as to where he lives and tell us all about what he has to say.
My name is Chris Latazzi, and I live at 22 Park Avenue.
I apologize, Chris.
No worries. I just wanted to say that I support everything that Mr. Reed said. I spoke before, so the plan is not to reiterate everything, but I am very concerned that the house with the porch is so very close to the road. It reminds me on 6A when they used to have stagecoaches come right up to the door. And now we're actually moving the house all the way out to where the porch is. And it just seems like it would be really right, literally on the road, as opposed to the porch leaving it open and there's no second floor. It doesn't seem that we're adding on to something that's more non-conforming from a 40-foot B street that Grove Street is. That's all I wanted to say.
Thank you very much. I see
Thank you.
Mr. Barron has come into our meeting. Mr. Barron, are you sitting as a member tonight, or are you just sitting in as an observer?
I apologize. I got wrapped up with something else and I missed the beginning of the meeting.
Yeah, okay, then well, I think we're gonna
so
have to
I-
ask not to vote this evening then.
Understood.
Okay, yeah, you know, does anyone else in our audience care to speak in opposition to this petition? If so, please raise your hand so our moderator can identify you.
Yes, I have Anna Cooper.
Hey, Ms. Cooper. You need to unmute yourself, ma'am.
Oh, sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Okay, thank you. My name is Anit Cooper. I'm here with my husband, Doug Peabody. We own both 16 Highland Street and 12 Highland Street. And we also are in full agreement with what Attorney Reed has presented, and really do believe that this house is massively oversized compared to what is there now, and in our view, a huge detriment to our neighborhood.
Okay, thank you. You spoke last time, didn't you, ma'am?
Just want to add one thing. We had an opportunity to renovate two houses in the neighborhood, 12 and 16 Highland Street. Both of the houses were lifted, a new foundation put in, and they were set back down. And I think in the previous hearing, they were shown a large house. They are, but they're 35 feet in the back. They were set right back down, but on the frontage, they're really two-story houses that don't exceed like 26 feet in height on the
29 and 22.
Yeah, it's 29 and 22, about 26.
But without, you know, respectfully, we're talking about this house this evening. Both of you, I think, spoke last time. So if there's anything new about the new change to the plan, that would be, sir, only one of us can talk at a time.
I was talking.
Pardon me?
I was talking. You talked over me.
Well, then good. Sir, if there's something you want to add beyond that which you spoke of last time at our first meeting on this matter, please let us know.
I've identified myself with Attorney Reed's remarks. The volume of this building exceeds what's already there on the frontage on Grove Street. And I think that's really the essence of what's going on here.
Thank you. Was there anything else you wanted to say?
No, thank you. Appreciate
Okay, is there anybody else in our audience that wishes to speak in opposition to this petition? If so, please raise your hand and let us know who you are.
Don't see any more hands raised.
Okay, we have two things not yet read into the record. That is a memo from a Kelly Grant Conservation Administrator. It's dated 5/20/21. It reads as follows: applicant Michael J. Lindsay Sr. submitted a notice of intent to the Conservation Commission to raise and replace a single-family dwelling with associated deck and previous driveway, as well as construction of an in-ground swimming pool with surrounding patio. At their January 7/21 meeting, the Conservation Commission voted to approve the project with conditions. In reviewing the proposed site layout, the commission was not prepared to approve any further encroachment into the regulatory coastal bank, riverfront, or toward the FEMA mapped velocity zone. Mitigation plantings along the edge of the salt marsh resource area were required to allow for the proposed increase in hardship pool and patio area. Hardscape pool and patio area within the riverfront area. The proposed approved plan is plan of Grove Street, number 8, West Yarmouth, Mass. BSC Group, revised on 1/4/2021. This plan has since been revised to remove the front porch on the plan dated 5/10/21. That's the correspondence from the conservation with respect to the correspondence received, but where the party isn't here to speak. I read a letter dated May 27/21 of Anthony P. Ficini that goes as follows. Dear Mr. DeYoung, although we are not able to join the Zoning Board of Appeals meeting on May 27, we did want to express our full support for the proposed new home to be constructed at 8 Grove Street by the Lindsays. We have reviewed the plans and the design is beautiful and will benefit the entire neighborhood and the town of Yarmouth. The existing house is old and needs to be replaced. We understand the changes to the original design have been made, and from the plan, we cannot see how the proposed structure will be detrimental in any way. We hope that the board agrees, issues the special permit, and allows this beautiful structure to be built. Does anyone in our audience who has not spoken care to say anything about this petition before we close it to public input? Madam Moderator? Madam,
No.
please, Mr. Tyler, just for a minute. Madam Moderator, is there anybody new with their hand up?
No raised hands.
Okay, so now we're gonna ask, I guess the petitioner's representative wants to say something to you, Mr. Tyler.
If I could briefly, I want to just rebut what Mr. Reed was saying, and if you can give me a little indulgence.
Yeah, well, this isn't gonna go back and forth between you and Mr. Reed all night. So you
No, I
get your
understand.
chance to rebut, and then we're gonna close it to commentary and open it up to board discussion and deliberations, okay?
Yes, I understand. And I'll be quick. Many of the neighbors that are complaining are saying the house is going to destroy character of the neighborhood, quiet enjoyment of our properties. Those were in some of the letters last time. But the character of a neighborhood is actually defined by the neighbors. We've heard, or we have letters from neighbors on Highland Street, all of whom have houses which are located in front setbacks and even into side setbacks. The situation doesn't get any better when you are on the side streets of Grove Street, where most of those houses are pre-existing non-conforming as to setbacks. Now, there's been testimony about how my client's ownership of an unrelated rental property somehow qualifies him, but it goes to the character of the neighborhood. The properties, and if I could have Mr. Healy put up some of those pictures of the houses in the neighborhood, I think it's relevant, and I'll be quick, I promise.
You will be.
I promise.
Don Marie, if I could get elevated, please.
You have a beautiful picture, Mr. Healy. Ms. Moderator, could we bring him up as a
Yeah, I promoted you, Karen.
motion? Yeah, promote him up, thanks.
All right. Ooh.
Where are you? Your microphone's off, sir. Just a pretty background on your computer, huh? Yeah, you have to turn on your microphone.
Here we are. I'm sorry, Mr.
There you
Moderator.
go.
Just took me a minute to get that squared away. I'm
Yeah,
trying
go
to
ahead.
see my screen right now.
Mr. Chairman, the property at 12 Highland, from the owners who just spoke, that alone has over 2,000 square feet of living area, 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, and 2 stories, 17 feet from the street, 12 feet from one sideline, and 7.4 feet from another. This is on a 4,300 square foot lot, and they admitted just now that the rear portion of that property is at 35 feet high. 16 Highland, same owners, that has 3,000 square feet of living area with 4 bedrooms and 5 baths in 2.5 stories, 12.4 feet from Highland Street, 19.5 feet from Park Ave. It encroaches into 2 coveted front setbacks. This is a lot that has less than 8,500 square feet. Both of these properties have had rental permits for the last, I don't know how many years. The advertisements online actually say between these 2 houses of which they rent, that you can rent up to 24 people in these 2 houses. 25 Highland, 1,200 square feet of living area, 3 bedrooms on 2 stories, a 5,300 square foot lot. 22 Park Ave, 2,000 square feet of living area with 3 bedrooms, 2 baths on 2 stories, 8,000 square foot lot, 8 feet from Park Street, or Park Ave, I'm sorry, and the garage is 7 inches from the northerly abutter. 22 Grove Street, over 1,000 square feet of living area, 4,000 square foot lot, and violates 2 side setbacks. This neighborhood, what we're trying to show is that this is not a detriment to the neighborhood. The neighborhood is what it is. And I understand that we are raising, replacing, and many of these houses probably were there and they're pre-existing, that's fine. But what I'm saying is this neighborhood is littered with houses that sit in front setbacks, side setbacks, rear setbacks, garages thrown wherever they are. And that's just the way these neighborhoods develop. So to say that this house is somehow out of character because it has to sit within a building envelope is not correct. Even the house across the street is that close to this quiet side street. This isn't fitting with the neighborhood. The board has traditionally allowed projects like this, regarding the special permits down on the other side on Park and Malfa Road. That was a 7,700 square foot lot, sitting 11.7 feet from the side road, Malfa. Okay. And that went up to close to 35 feet. 2 months ago, you issued a variance for the house abutting this for a 2.5 story. Bottom line is that the project is not going to be substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood, despite the protestations of these neighbors who have large homes, sitting in setbacks, and who regularly rent their property out to large parties. So the neighborhood has been defined by them.
All right, thank you. Mr. Reed, did you want to speak in any way to what just has been added by Mr. Tardif? Just to that.
Just that I've asked you, and I assume you're all familiar with the neighborhood and have actually driven around recently with respect to this property and perhaps other applications. But I would ask you to focus not on an isolated house here or there, but on the prevailing character of the neighborhood. And I still submit that the prevailing character of the neighborhood, to the extent that that's part of your criteria, is not yet what it is at the other end of Park Avenue. And I would ask you to try and respect and consider the interests of the neighbors who have expressed their feelings tonight that this is not an appropriate house to be located so close to the street on a lot that does not have the upland area to put a house of that magnitude. And the comparison between what's there now and what's proposed is too much for this location.
Okay, thank you. All right, we now close it to public input on the petition. We open it up to board discussions and consideration of the petition. Mr. Igo, would you like to start us off?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would like to just start off at a baseline statement in that I believe that everybody should have the right to redevelop their property. All the people that are in opposition to this, I believe they should have the right to redevelop their property. And I think what the petitioner is proposing is in keeping with modern designs that we're now seeing on the Cape. This, I believe, is a very tastefully designed home. I think it fits in the modern motif, as many houses are, not only in this neighborhood, but in many neighborhoods throughout the Cape. In terms of what I'm hearing about this being a rental property or this person renting a lot, I don't think we should even take that into consideration. And I'm certainly not going to take that into consideration. People are free to do at their houses whatever is lawfully allowed. So if this person wants to rent their house, well, then they should be allowed to rent it as long as it conforms with the bylaws that we have relative to rentals. I do agree with what Attorney Reed says, is that when we have houses that are non-conforming with front setbacks and they are taken down, that we should do everything in our power to try to bring that front setback into compliance as best we can. Now, I don't know that they can do that with this particular property. I'm looking at the plot plan right now, and I don't believe that they can comply with 30 feet, even if they backed it almost into the wetland. And I do agree that our purview is relative to zoning and it's not to conservation. So I'm really not taking conservation's letter to us into consideration with how I'm going to view this property. I did, however, find it very persuasive, and I am concerned about this setback being proposed at 8 foot 7 inches. I found it very persuasive that right now only 29 feet of it is in the 8 foot setback, and as proposed, 40 feet of it would be in the 8 foot setback. And I'm very troubled by that. And that's something that I'm not quite sure that I can get over. It's no doubt an increase in use. It's going from 2,000 square feet to 3,600 square feet and 4 bedrooms to 5 bedrooms. And the 5 bedrooms, I would probably guess that the bedrooms that are currently in that house are relatively small, but the new bedrooms are nice big bedrooms and many baths. And again, it's a beautiful home. I'm not really concerned with the garages. I think that was explained, so I'm not as concerned with that. But I think what we have is an 80% increase in floor space. I think we've got a 40 foot versus 29 foot build out inside an 8 foot 7 front setback, again, which is very troubling to me, and I'm having a hard time getting around that. I guess overall what I would say is I just think that this house as proposed is too big for this lot. And so I would be in favor of granting the petitioner relief in as far as a raise and replace is concerned, but I would want to see that front setback increase substantially. And the only way that I see that they can get there is to decrease the size of the house. So in its current proposal to us, I do find that this is a substantially non-conforming proposal. And I do not believe that they meet the criteria under 104.3.2.2 as proposed. So as Chairman, I'm not going to be able to support this petition as proposed. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Frappary.
I echo some of the things that Mr. Igor said, but at the same time, from everything I can go through as far as our restrictions and what we have done, this does improve by moving it back. I understand the homeowner's concerns about a house that's larger than they may feel is representative of the neighborhood, but I do feel that individuals have a right to be able to build up their house and improve it as necessary. As I can see it right now, this fits. This does meet all the requirements that we have as far as improving upon any nonconformity. It does fit into the footprint. The footprint may not be the same height all the way around as currently, but we define it as the footprint on the ground. So as I see it right now, it meets the criteria, and I'd have to accept it.
Mr. Martin.
Yeah, I have the same reservations as Mr. Igo had. While it's a nice house and an upgrade to the neighborhood, and as far as values and so forth that go, I can understand the neighbors' concerns. I think going to an 8 foot setback from the street is still just not enough. And if the lot, it's a bigger lot, and that's good compared to, some of these other houses that have been built on small lots. But I'd have to agree with Mr. Reed too, that the front setback is somewhat sacred, so to speak. And even though it's a little dead end street with not many houses, that 8 feet still is very, very little. And when we're going so high and so big with so many bedrooms, I think that front setback should come into better conformity than just 8 feet from the front street line. So I have mainly that issue. I think a somewhat smaller house with a lesser need for front setback relief would be well received by me, but I have some issues with this particular plan.
Thank you. Ms. Homer. Do you have anything you wanted to say on?
I have nothing I can add, and I can't vote yet, but thank you.
Well, yeah, you know, I hate to not give people the relief they're seeking. I think that in fairness to the petitioner, they went back and they tried to address some of our concerns, and I think they did so in a very positive way. But I am kind of struck by a particular comment that Mr. Reed made, which is, you know, you're looking at flat decking surrounding this existing structure and a modest home. And now we're going to be looking at 33 feet from 33 plus feet within 8 feet of frontage on the road. And I know Mr. Igo and I have shared a longstanding belief that we should try to get as close to what is appropriate frontage. And very seldom will we ever give relief when people come into us that lack appropriate frontage. I know that you can't conform on this lot to 30-foot setback. I get it. I thought that maybe you could go back to that checkered line that we see on the proposed site plan. And that would give you the setback from the street, but it wouldn't. It's even if that were the limits of your construction as determined by Concom, that is not a sufficient depth to get you any more than maybe 13 feet off the street. So I think the house needs to be downscaled a little. But I'm also struck by the neighbors, quite honestly. I'm struck when we see what they built and then to come in and say, well, you know, somebody else shouldn't be allowed to do it. I agree with Mr. Martin, Mr. Igo, Mr. Frappery. I agree with all of them. They should be allowed to improve their property. And this property needs to be improved. It's outdated. The plan is beautiful. And it's a shame you can't get it to the 30-foot or close setback, because that would do it for me. But I am kind of struck by Mr. Reed's argument that I'm looking up at something that's just pretty massive on the front in terms of its proximity to the street that I'm traveling along. So I think that it needs to come in a better compliance, something less than the current non-compliance and a little more than what's been accomplished to this point in order to be able to say I can support it. And I feel bad for that, because I think I spoke in favor, I don't remember, but I think I spoke in favor of this if you would just do some changes. But I'm convinced now that the changes just aren't going to work. So I am going to be voting against it too. So let's move it along to a vote. Does anybody prepare?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Would I be asking for too much if we ask for another continuance with the appropriate extensions so we could work on that plan? Or may I request a withdrawal without prejudice?
Well, I think to the latter, let me just poll the members. I don't think that either one of those things are necessarily inappropriate, other than we've spent some time and the neighbors have spent some money, as have the petitioners on legal counsel. But I think we've always been in favor of allowing either one of those two things, particularly if what's being suggested is a continuance would perhaps get us closer to what we need to see to satisfy everybody. And I don't think it's up to us to tell you what that should be. I think it's up to you to present it. So unless one of the voting board members this evening have a problem with a continuance, if you do, raise your hand and let's get it on. So I don't see any. Is anybody prepared to make a motion on behalf of a motion to allow a continuance subject to an extension agreement being signed and this being now the second continuance of this petition?
I would motion to allow them to continue this matter with the proper extension signed until such time as they feel that they have an appropriate plan to present back to the board.
Second.
Mr. Martin, seconded?
Yep.
All right. And on that motion, I don't think we need to have any discussion, do we, board members? Seeing nobody raising their hand, Mr. Frappry, what's your vote on this motion?
Aye.
Mr. Martin?
Aye.
Mr. Igo?
Aye.
Mr. DeYoung is an aye, therefore it carries 4-0. How much time do you think you need? And you've heard all the comments, so we're not going to give you any more direction.
Right.
It's up to you to
Right.
present.
I
How
think
much time?
a couple months, and I'll tell you why, unless you don't care.
No, I don't really care so long as you sign an extension agreement.
Absolutely.
But I think I'd like to have it sometime when the members, when the neighbors who are interested in speaking on it, perhaps aren't out of state because the winter's approaching. So, let's do it in fairly good time. 60 days, 90 days.
July 22nd.
What?
July 22nd.
That quick? Sure. I don't know. Could our moderator perhaps tell us what we have on the agenda that night? Just in terms of the numbers, not the specifics.
I don't see anything at the moment.
All right, so July 22, would that be a date that you'd agree within your motion there, Mr.
Yes.
Let's see, I go, Mr. Martin, to continue it to that date?
Yes.
And Mr.
Chairman?
Frappry, you were fine with the continuance to that date, as am I.
Mr. Chairman,
Who's speaking?
David Reed,
Yes, Mr. Reed, yeah, I'm sorry.
I apologize, but I'm away that week. I would not be available.
Sure, then let's make it another time. We know you want to speak, and that's only fair.
So August 12th.
8/12. Everybody okay with 8/12? Anybody
Thank
gonna be out of town we need to worry about? Okay, I'll make sure I'm not going to Haiti or somewhere that particular Thursday. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, don't forget, you have to provide an extension agreement, please.
I
To the
promise.
board in these COVID days. It will then be scanned and emailed to me for signature, offsetting yours. Thank you.
Thank you.
We move it along to the next matter. That is petition number 4899, that of Jamie Carter, Carder. I don't want anybody to confuse it as Carter, my partner. This is concerning property located at 223 West Great Western Road, Yarmouth, Mass. And if we could bring Ms. Carter in, please, Ms. Moderator.
Yeah, Jamie, you're being promoted to panelist. So if
Okay.
you unmute yourself, you'll be able to speak.
All right, well, let me just go through the rest of the presentation. And that property is located within an R40 zoning district. This evening, a petitioner seeks to make changes within her property to allow for an in-law apartment. And would you just identify yourself for us, please?
Sure, I'm Jamie Carter.
All right, Jamie, and what would you like to tell us about your petition, please?
I would like to transform part of my basement into a one-bedroom apartment for my mom.
And do we have, I guess you've submitted plans to us, right?
Yes.
You're aware of the size limitations. And
I
have you
am.
had an affidavit to file? Oh, yeah, you got the affidavit filed. Good. All right, Mr. Martin, any questions of our petitioner?
Yeah, it looks like the walkout part of the basement is just on the side of the house, right?
Right.
Yeah, and did it show the bedroom is being not in that part of the walkout? Were you planning on some kind of egress, legal egress to make that safe for the fire department's concerns?
I don't understand what you're asking. I'm
Well,
sorry.
is typically the bedroom, the one bedroom, has to be in an area where it has either a window or door access to the outside. That doesn't
Yeah,
have.
it has a window,
It does have a regular
Yep.
size window.
a full-size window.
And then I don't think I had any other questions.
All right, Mr. Frappry.
My only question was about the entrance, and that was answered by Mr. Martin's question, so thank you.
And it's Mr. Igo. I'm sorry, Mr. Igo, please.
No questions. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
And I got to tell you, I have no questions. I do thank you for pointing out the ability to get out of that bedroom if a fire should occur down there. There is the upstairs to run up the stairs or the walkout on the other side, but it's pretty modest in its size. The total living space is 655 square feet, below that, which is the maximum we allow. We certainly encourage in-law apartments, and you understand that if this is no longer used by a family member, that you either need to ask for it to be placed on a list for low-income housing, or cease its use as a living space.
I do.
With kitchen and sink and tub and all that. Okay, so does anybody in our audience care to speak in favor of this petition? If so, please raise your hand so our moderator can identify you and invite you in.
I see no hands raised.
Does anyone in our audience care to speak in opposition to this petition? If so, please raise your hand. Let our moderator know who you are so you can be invited in.
No hands raised.
You know, there seldom are hands raised on these family in-law apartments. And we're certainly happy your mom is joining you. I'm not sure I would have done an apartment for my mom, but I'll leave it at that. All right, so.
I still wonder why I'm doing it, but.
Yeah, well, I'm sure you love your mother. That's why you're doing it. All right, so does anybody care to have any other discussion with this, with the petitioner? All right, we've closed it off to the public deliberation, public input. We're now opening up to board discussion and deliberations, please. Is anybody prepared to make a motion?
I'd make a motion that we approve the petition as requested with no conditions.
Second.
Who seconded, please?
Ray.
Thank you. See, now you're going to get your name on your first decision that this will that will get recorded down at the Registry of Deeds. So you're going to have keep doing that. It's nice. I know, Mr. That everybody likes to get their name on something. All right. So a motion's been made. It's been seconded to approve the petition without condition. Does the board care to have any discussion before moving along to a vote? And
only Mr. Chairman, only that the petitioner meets the criteria under section 407.2 subsections 1 through 9.
See, he always keeps us legal. That's that lawyer in him. He must say those things, and we appreciate it. So, on that note, does anybody else care to have anything to say about the motion made and seconded? And hearing none, we're going to do a roll call. Mr. Frappry?
Aye.
Mr. Igo?
Aye.
Mr. Martin?
Aye.
Mr. DeYoung is an aye. That carries 4 to, Mr. Barron, excuse me. Mr. Barron, you can sit on this. Tom, I'm so sorry. I didn't think to ask if you had questions.
No, and my vote would be aye on the motion.
All right. And my vote is an aye, so therefore it carries 5 to nothing. What happens now is a decision will be drafted. It will be filed with the town clerk's office. Once that decision has been on file for 20 days, if there be no appeal, you then have to take that decision, record it at the Barnstable Registry of Deeds, and return proof of recordation back to our board. You will get instructions. You don't have to take notes.
I don't remember exactly what you said.
That's okay. You'll get instructions. You don't need to take notes. All right. So thank you very much. Pleasure
Thank you,
having
everyone.
you come before us.
Appreciate it.
All right. Anybody prepared to move to adjourn the meeting?
I'll move to adjourn.
Thank you, Mr. Martin. Second, of course, Mr. Igo. I heard you say second. And does anybody want to have discussion? Hearing none. All those. Mr. Frappry?
Aye.
Mr. Igo?
Aye.
Mr. Barron?
Aye.
Mr. Martin?
Aye.
And Mr. DeYoung, aye. I'm sorry, we all have to do these by roll call votes now. So thank you all. Good to see you and look forward to our next meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Those of you in Florida,
Again.
stay dry and warm.
Take care, everyone.
Yeah.
I know. Thank you, Don.
Good
Very
job.
much.
Yeah, you're welcome.
You did a great job this evening.
Thanks.